Welcome to the Fundamentals of a Supply Chain. This learning module will introduce you to the basic principles of a supply chain. So what is a supply chain? Author C.H. Fine describes a supply chain as material, information, and services typically crossing several different organizations involved in producing and delivering a product or service to an end user. In other words, any company that has a flow of material, products, information, or cash qualifies as having a supply chain. As you develop your business venture, it's important to recognize this fact. Here is a diagram of a traditional supply chain. Each entity will perform a specific function within the supply chain. Let's take a look at the key players or partners involved. The start of a supply chain begins with a customer. A customer is an individual or company that is interested in buying a product or service. Making our way upstream, a retailer purchases finished products from manufacturers, then sells them directly to the customers. A distributor supplies products to retailers. A manufacturer creates finished products from source materials. And a supplier is the source of the product's materials. Driven by customer demand, a supply chain provides products and services that are integrated through a constant flow of information and planning. As the demand signal flows upstream, making its way through each of the supply chain partners, the supply material flows downstream back to the customer. In parallel, the exchange of information, representing electronic orders and tracking, as well as funds, flow in either direction. Note that supply isn't always forward-only process. At times, the supply chain needs to support a backwards flow. This reverse flow in a supply chain supports product returns, servicing, and recycling. To manage the supply and material flows, a supply chain is connected by transportation and storage activities. We will discuss the various modes of transportation a bit later on in this video. We can decompose a supply chain into 5 basic operational functions: plan, source, make, deliver, and return. This reference model is the foundation of the Supply Chain Operations Reference, or SCORE, a popular methodology developed by the Supply Chain Council as a framework for supply chain improvement. Let us now discuss each of these functions in more detail. Within the plan function, we want to assess all supply chain resources. Resources being people, material, equipment, activities, and information. Aggregate and prioritize demand requirements. These demand requirements are generated by the customer. Plan inventory, distribution, production, and raw materials. Plan capacity for all products and distribution channels. A distribution channel is a path which supply moves downstream to the customer. The objective is to develop a strategy to balance the resources with these demand requirements. Source. These are activities needed to acquire materials to create products. Activities such as purchasing, receiving, inspections, hold, and issuing of inventory. Sourcing includes everything from obtaining raw materials to finished goods and professional services. The source function is simply to procure materials and services to meet demand. Make. These are activities required to develop the product. These activities may include requesting and receiving materials, building and testing the product, packaging, holding, then releasing for delivery. The focus within this function is to transform the materials and services to meet demand. Deliver. These are activities needed to deliver the product to the customer. For example, generating quotes for the customer, configuring or installing the product or service, managing payments and invoicing, executing warehouse orders to ship the product, and maintaining customers' relations through the support lifecycle. The deliver function supports processes which provide the finished product and services to meet demand. The goal of the delivery function is to ship the right product in the right quantities to the right place at the right time. But in reality, this may not always be the case, so we need to plan for a reverse supply flow. Return. These are activities required to receive product returns. They would include receiving defective, incorrect, or excess returns. This activity could also include warranty verification, administration, and replacement. Recycling and sustainability. For example, returning empty printer ink cartridges. These 5 basic operational functions, plan, source, make, deliver, and return, not only describe a supply chain as a whole, but extend to each individual entity within the supply chain, from the retailer back up through the supplier. A major problem of a supply chain is related to demand uncertainty. Some common influences which attribute to this uncertainty are competition. Is a competition affecting demand in a positive or negative way? Weather conditions. Are poor weather conditions affecting sourcing or delivery of a product? Technology maturity. Does the information flow between each partner in the supply chain automatically in near real time? Supply chain fragmentation, which can lead to conflicting objectives within the supply chain. Inaccurate demand forecasting due to inflated or deflated orders. Long lead times, late deliveries, incomplete shipments, and price fluctuations and discounts. So how can we help guard against demand uncertainty? Well, this introduces a field of study called supply chain management. Author Michael Yugos describes supply chain management as the coordination of production, inventory, location, and transportation among the participants in the supply chain to achieve the best mix of responsiveness and efficiency for the market being served. The objective is to increase the throughput while reducing inventory and operating costs. It's a systems approach to understand and coordinate the supply chain as a whole. The goals of supply chain management places focus on improving service and efficiency for the customer, reduces uncertainty and risk in the supply chain, increases inventory turnover rate, reduces costs, inventory and transportation, increases market share, and reduces cycle and lead times. Let's talk a bit about the responsiveness and efficiency for the market being served. Aligning the supply chain with market strategies. If you are planning to serve a market segment and compete on customer service and convenience, you'd want to optimize the supply chain for responsiveness. For example, Wawa, a chain of convenience store or gas stations whose core principle is to simplify our customers' daily lives. Or if the intent is to serve a mass market and compete on price, you'd want to then optimize the supply chain for low cost. For example, Costco, a no-frills bulk warehouse membership club. Their core principle is to provide our customers with the lowest possible prices. Each supply chain has its own unique set of challenges. However, the underlying issues remain the same. Production and inventory. Production refers to the capacity of the supply chain to produce and store products. The primary purpose of inventory is to buffer against uncertainty. We'll talk about inventory more in a bit. Transportation. How should inventory be moved within a supply chain? Will it travel by air, which is the most expensive but fastest? Ocean, a low-cost, high-density, but slowest of the transport modes? Truck, which is relatively quick for small loads and highly flexible? Or rail, which is low-cost and high-density? Can you think of any other modes of delivery? Location. What is the location's operational focus? Where should the factories and inventory warehouses be located? What are the most effective locations? Could existing locations be used, or will new ones need to be built? Information. How much data should be collected? How much should be shared? Where in the process is the data required? How timely does the data need to be? Within a supply chain, it's important that the information is accurate, timely, and complete. The key is to find a balance between efficiency and responsiveness across production and inventory, transportation, location, and information. The objective for any supply chain is to increase throughput while reducing inventory and operating costs. Let's talk a bit more about inventory. Inventory is spread throughout the supply chain and includes everything from raw materials to finished products and basically everything in between. Storing large amount of inventory allows the supply chain to be responsive to fluctuations in customer demand. However, the creation and storage of inventory becomes a high cost to the supply chain. The primary purpose of inventory is to buffer against uncertainty. A common phenomenon related to inventory in a supply chain is known as the bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect occurs when slight variability over time becomes distorted as the demand signal from the customer flows back upstream through the supply chain. In other words, small increases in demand can cause large increasing needs for product or materials upstream. How can we reduce variability, uncertainty, and lead times? One approach is deploying enabling technologies. Enabling technologies can help gain visibility and efficiency within the supply chain. This becomes a competitive advantage in the market. These technologies may include various software systems to manage manufacturing, scheduling, transportation, warehousing, global trade, customer relationship, order, inventory, and point of sales. EDI, an industry standard electronic messaging format. RFID, which provides descriptive data about products or shipments in real time. This video module was brought to you by Villanova University's Engineering Entrepreneurship Program and made possible by the support of the Robert and Patricia Kern Family Foundation through KEEN, the Kern Entrepreneurship Education Network, instilling the entrepreneurial mindset in engineering undergraduates.